So the first recoil type is based off the weapon you choose. I have the 7.62 and the 5.45 here, and you can see me try to shoot the top of this, and it kicks up a little bit, but as I switch to this one, it starts kicking a lot higher up in the air. So depending on like what weapon you choose, they all have their own recoil patterns to it at the base weapon, and you can build upon that. You can also use the select fire option you have at the bottom right here, and this will help you with your recoil from shooting from farther ranges. Some weapons have a conversion kit where you can transform the weapon into a new weapon type. So if I go to magazine on this gun, there's single tap mod, and this makes my shot stronger, keeps it in semi-auto, but my recoil is now much more. As you can see, whenever I shoot at this palm tree, the recoil is now going crazy and jumping around. Some weapons have conversion kits. You don't see them as much as you did in the first Modern Warfare. Before I show you all the recoil patterns and types there are, I want to show you aiming stability. You can see my character like moving around his gun all frantically and that's the aiming stability, so it already looks literally jittery. And I have created the most worst aiming stability you could possibly have in this game, as you can see this right here. So aiming stability does matter, and after you're shooting, it still counts. Like if you have an assault rifle with bad aiming stability, your aiming stability would be moving around like this when you're shooting your gun in full auto. Now compare that to a weapon that has no issues with aiming stability, and here we go. You can see that it's just barely moving. And whenever I shoot, if this was full auto, it won't be like moving around like as I'm shooting. Alright, next up we have recoil stabilization. This reduces the side to side balance and also reduces the visual recoil by 21%. Alright, so I'm going to mess up my shots on purpose and show you what it looks like. I don't know if I wiggled it quite well, but kind of like that. Like it kind of just looks like it just looks like it's just kind of like when you shoot, sometimes it just jerks left or right. Alright, recoil steadiness. This actually reduces the recoil path magnitude, keeping it in a straight line. So without recoil steadiness, your shots could look something like this, almost like a lightning bolt. But when you tighten up the recoil steadiness, it'll be more in a straight line. Also, visual kick is reduced by 0%, so it has no effect with visual recoil. And now we have recoil smoothness. You can only get this by using a suppressor and sliding it towards the smoothness side. So I tried to explain this to a lot of people because a lot of like YouTubers don't understand what this does. And it more or less just paces out your shots evenly. So I shot 7 shots over here, and some of them are kind of close together, and they just like kind of skip around here and there. This is just very consistent, so you get a consistent like a pattern, like dun 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 dun, and then like this one is just like and it's just like, it's just not like a, you know, a natural pattern. So smoothness just keeps you going on to a pattern. It's also really excellent for getting headshots, and it has a 6% reticle recoil visual reduction. Alright, next up we have vertical recoil, and speaking of up, this actually reduces the amount that your gun shoots upwards. So the more vertical recoil reduction you have, the more you'll be shooting like this compared to like this mess. Here you have horizontal recoil control, and this reduces the amount your gun drags on to the right or to the left. So the more reduction of this you have, the more or less you'll be shooting left and right and be shooting more straight. Before I go on to the next recoil, I want to talk about vertical recoil and horizontal recoil more. A lot of people, when they think of recoil, they think of like the vertical recoil shooting up, but let me tell you that horizontal could just be as important, if not more important. That door over there is about the size of an operator, but you can see that it is tall from the bottom up. And if I had like really great up and down recoil, I could still be shooting left and right. But if I had really great horizontal recoil, I could still shoot up, but like my shots will eventually hit his head because the shape of the operator body is long as a human's body is. What I'm trying to say is, if you have really great horizontal recoil control but bad vertical control, you have to worry about staying on this line right here. Kitty cat face. But you have to stay on this line of the body. But if you had really great vertical recoil control but bad horizontal recoil control, then you have to worry about staying on this line. You see how this is much shorter between like staying right here on his chest and then just like moving off this way. So that's why horizontal recoil control could be really great. So don't just think about vertical recoil control. Anyone notice this fish on the wall? No, neither have I. Alright, for the next one we have recoil control, and this pretty much is the overall recoil. So say you had gnarly recoil and you made a triangle. So if you have really great recoil control, it will basically turn into a baby triangle. So it takes whatever mess you have of your recoil and just shrinking it down. It also reduces the visual recoil by 11%. Alright, and what is gun kick control? It is a option whenever you put on a muzzle brake, and for the longest time I had no idea what this was. And I did figure it out before they fixed it, but you take your slider and this would say gun kick control, but they fixed it and it now says recoil control, and it does what I just mentioned in the last recoil. This is recoil control, so it just shrinks down the shape of it. It used to say gun kick control and it confused a lot of people, so I just want to clarify that. Alright, so what is visual recoil? I keep bringing it up but haven't showed you guys yet. It's basically the recoil that makes your gun shake around, but it's not actually making your gun have recoil. It's completely visual. So if you want to reduce that, what you need to do is go to your reticle and put it to farthest. So if your optic is farther away, it doesn't look as messy. And there you go, that's visual recoil. There is another recoil that's completely visual as well, and it's called view kick. It's when you shoot and it goes right back to where you began, where your reticle was. And it's completely visual and it doesn't actually mess with your recoil. Every time you shoot like a big shot or just multiple shots, it just throws up your gun. But it's not actually making your aiming worse. But it could throw you off though because you're not seeing your target. Next we have sliding hip accuracy, and just like recoil control, it basically shrinks it down to a smaller size. Except with this one, it's hip fire only and you're sliding. They've been buffing sliding in Modern Warfare, so I could see this being pretty useful. But yeah, you more or less can hit your shots better as you're sliding. Next up is hip fire accuracy, and I tuned this build to have the most hip fire accuracy. Alright, we're going to shoot it right now. Next up we have hip recoil control, and I tuned this to have the most hip recoil control I could. And you can see that this makes no sense because this has better accuracy and this has better recoil because it's not hitting up higher. So these values are basically flipped around. So accuracy is actually recoil and recoil is accuracy. I just want to let you guys know that because it's actually confusing. Next up is flinch, and it happens whenever someone shoots at you or it shoots like incendiary, which gives you extra flinch whenever you get shot from that. And it makes you just keep looking up in the air and bounce. And a way you can reduce that is putting on a optic and then putting flinch resistant up. There's also grips that give you flinch resistant as well, and you also receive more flinch when you're using a sniper rifle or a DMR. Other weapons doesn't have as much drastic flinch as those two weapon classes do. Another thing I want to mention is that there is a perk called focus, and it also reduces flinch when aiming down sights, and it also extends the hold of breath. So when you're aiming with this sniper scope and it's like moving around from idle sway, you can stabilize it. I forgot to mention that when I was talking about aiming stability, but this helps out with that as well. So it helps out with two different categories. Another thing that helps with your recoil is mounting your weapons and also bipods. So whenever you have a bipod, you can just mount anywhere and just start firing away, and it helps with your shots like a lot. So without like mounting, you're kind of just like shaking and moving around with this idle stability that I was telling you about. But when you mount your weapon, it's like so smooth, you don't even need to hold your breath. Like this is good enough right here. You can just fire it like whatever you want. Also, when you have a bipod, you can mount anywhere, even places that have nothing to mount on, like this ground right here. You can lay down and mount your weapon, and now you have better accuracy when you're shooting your gun. Or better yet, recoil, I suppose, because accuracy is only hip fire. The accuracy stat isn't how pinpoint you are with hitting your target. It is actually only when you're firing from hip fire from your gun. So hip fire only is accuracy. So if a sniper rifle has a 0 bar in accuracy, that means nothing because you should be firing your sniper from the hip. Also, the next thing we're going to talk about is positioning. Positioning is when you're moving around, and you can see my crosshair is extended, but if I stay still, it's smaller. If I crouch, it gets smaller, and it gets even smaller when I go prone. And whenever you're moving around shooting, your shots are a little bit more inaccurate than you would be standing still, trying to fire at somebody. And if I tack sprint, you can't see any of the lines because I can't shoot while I'm tack sprinting. So figuring out your positioning could also change the tide of battle. And that wraps up the recoil guide. If you find this useful, please leave a like down below, and I like keeping these short for everyone. And I tested everything, like the shock sticks having better accuracy, and I didn't notice anything, but yeah, I believe I found everything, and yeah, I'm out. Peace.